All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. This time we are looking at romantic love
Huh?
through the lens of neuroscience. So the poem starts by talking about the VTA
Yeah.
and dopamine,
Yeah.
which don't sound terribly romantic at first
Right.
glance. What are those?
Yeah, well, they're really the key to understanding that initial rush of falling in love.
Yeah.
So the VTA stands for the ventral tegmental area, and it's basically the brain's pleasure center.
Okay.
And it releases dopamine, which is like a reward signal telling us, this feels good, do more of this. And when we're falling in love, that dopamine floods the nucleus accumbens, another part of the reward pathway.
Oh, so that's what's happening.
Yeah.
When the poem says, hearts afire.
Exactly.
It's not just a metaphor. It's our brains lighting up with pleasure.
Exactly. It's like the thrill of winning a prize or, that feeling of pure excitement and joy.
Okay. And then, speaking of excitement,
Yeah.
the poem also mentions norepinephrine. What's that all about?
Yeah, I remember those butterflies you mentioned? That's norepinephrine in action.
Oh, yeah. I definitely remember those. I
Yeah.
remember one time I was so nervous to meet this person
Mm-hmm.
for date that I actually tripped and almost fell into a fountain.
Oh, no. Talk about fight or flight, right?
Yeah, that was definitely fight or flight.
Well, that's a perfect example of what norepinephrine does. It's part of our stress response system. But in the context of love, it kind of gives us this exhilarating energy, that feeling of being on high alert, completely focused on the object of our affection.
Yeah. So it's like the good kind of stress
Right.
that makes you feel alive.
Right.
But the poem also hints that as love matures, it becomes less about those fireworks and more about something deeper.
Yeah.
And more meaningful.
Exactly. It's not just about the initial excitement. It's about building a connection that lasts. And that's where the caudate nucleus comes in.
Caudate nucleus?
Yeah. The poem describes it as the place where love takes root and grows.
Okay.
So the caudate nucleus plays a crucial role in habit formation.
So is it like our brain is creating
Yeah.
a love routine?
In a way, yes. As love matures, those initial dopamine bursts become less frequent, and the caudate nucleus steps in and helps turn those loving behaviors into ingrained habits.
Oh, but it's not just a boring routine, is it?
No, not at all. It's about those special moments becoming ingrained in our lives.
Right.
The laughter, the inside jokes, the shared adventures,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Those become part of our love story, etched in our neural circuitry.
I like that, etched in our neural circuitry. That makes me think about how those early memories, even if they seem small at the time, can become really powerful later on.
Absolutely. They shape our understanding of love and connection.
Yeah. And speaking of those early memories, I noticed that the poem also talks about this feeling of safety and comfort and love. Like it uses this phrase, finding sanctuary in your embrace.
Right. And that brings us to the amygdala.
So the amygdala is usually thought of as the fear center of the brain.
Right. Exactly.
So how does that tie into love?
Well, it's not just about fear. The amygdala is also involved in feeling secure and safe and love with. All of its positive reinforcement and bonding experiences can actually soothe the amygdala, creating a sense of calm and well-being when we're with our loved ones.
So love can literally calm our fears. It can?
That's amazing. There are two other chemicals mentioned in the poem that I wanted to ask about. Oxytocin and vasopressin.
Ah, yes. Oxytocin and vasopressin.
And what are those all about?
They're sometimes called the cuddle hormones.
Oh.
And these are essential for bonding, trust, and long-term commitment. They're released through touch, intimacy, and those moments of deep connection, fostering that feeling of closeness and attachment that defines lasting love.
So it's like they're the biological glue that helps couples stay connected over time.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, it's really amazing how
it is remarkable.
All these different parts of the brain
are
working together to create this experience that we call love. But it's not all just autopilot, is it?
You're right. It's not.
I mean, the poem mentions the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision-making.
Exactly. The poem describes it as the place where reason and passion intertwine.
Okay.
So the prefrontal cortex allows us to make conscious choices about love.
Oh, so even though our brains are wired for love, we still have the power to shape our own love stories.
Absolutely. We're not just slaves to our biology. Understanding the science gives us incredible insight. But ultimately, it's our choices and our actions that determine the course of our relationships.
That's really cool. I really enjoyed this deep dive. I thought it was really fun to
me too.
explore the science of love through this poem.
In a really unique way to think about it.
Yeah, it really is. And it makes you think, you know, if we can understand the biological underpinnings of love, can we use that knowledge to build stronger, more fulfilling relationships?
I think that's a great question for everyone to consider.
Yeah, that's a really good question to end on. I like that. So thank you all for joining us for this deep dive into the science of love. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time for another